All right, we are live. You're Not Terribly Important to Me, episode 6. Welcome. It's been a fun 5 episodes so far. You know, uh, I I feel like I haven't produced enough to actually have an audience, but there's something of an audience, which is very weird. Considering my Twitter, which I built up since 2012, got permanently suspended under the old regime, got reinstated under Elon Musk, and now I'm permanently suspended again. So, um, and I took a long time, where I spent a lot of time, I suppose, tweeting from it. Where, it's just it's a little disappointing. You know what I mean? Because I back in I'm trying to remember because I get 2017 and 2018 mixed up because they seem to blend together. But I think it was, I think it was 20. I'm not going to remember. I think it was like 2018. It was right around the time Alex Jones got suspended from the platform. So I used to write with a group of people. I used to write with it was a known film website. I mean, not prominent or anything, but it had a regular number of contributors. It, in the film Twitter space, is relatively respected. So and I'm not going to name them because I don't want to cause any drama or anything unnecessarily. But um, they've kind of all like separated and doing their own thing now, and whatever, and it's fine. But I this was a time when I was writing the most. It was the time that I was the most passionate. I looked forward to new series that we were doing, like on Robert Altman or Martin Scorsese or the Coen brothers. And it was a lot of fun. It really was. Even if the people that I did it with, you know, they kind of uh okay, they weren't all British, but yeah, just ran into some difference of opinions on free speech and uh what was appropriate and what wasn't. And I'm somebody that always going to be a champion of free speech. I'm always going to fight against censorship. And it got to the point where I just, I like to troll people. And this was a time when I wasn't doing it as deliberately as I've done the last couple years. But it was a situation where they were getting blowback for tweets I would send out. And it's like, it's not real. It's Twitter. Like, who cares? So it got to the point where I even defended like Alex Jones's free speech, uh, his rights basically, and say that, he shouldn't be kicked off Twitter. It goes against the idea of the public square, of everybody being able to at least voice their opinion and for it to be seen. And there was issues over that. And so I basically was, asked to leave and not be part of the group anymore, which is fine. But ever since then, it's just like I've combated a lot of this sort of like normie milk toast, no stakes sort of film criticism, where it's just like everything is positive and everything is great, and it's not. Most of it's not. But anyway, that's just, that's that. It's disappointing that I don't have that Twitter anymore, because there's years of this, and being blocked by multiple film critics and multiple actors. And I don't think I have ever gotten a director to block me, but yeah, film critics are just full of shit. They're absolutely full of shit people. And I was taken aback the first time I realized that, for instance, my interactions with Matt Zoller's sites. If any of you are familiar, he wrote for RogerEbert.com, among many other publications. He has two books out by that are like kind of about prestige TV, one about The Sopranos and one about Mad Men. Anyway, this was the first time I realized that film critics like him view themselves as genuine journalists. I'm pausing for effect because that's so fucking ridiculous. I mean, I guess in the historical sense, that's where film criticism comes out of, is journalism, but it's much more the arts and leisure section. It's not, it's not like hard hitting facts. It's not It's not, going into dangerous war zones. It's not, I mean, come on. It's like the lowest stakes form of journalism. And at the end of the day, it's like critics are full of shit anyway. Like they are like they're consistent enough to be counted on in any meaningful way. This is coming from somebody that has a respect for the history of film criticism and what it's meant and how it's impacted the art of filmmaking. But it's fine. It's just like I you just got to let it go. It's at a certain point. It was fun doing that for a while, doing having my old Twitter account and everything, but it's fine. At this point, I just need to seriously focus on getting reviews out, doing work. I get too bogged down in bullshit for the most part, and the more time, honestly, that I spend on Twitter, the more I realize that social media was just a massive mistake. And I mean, it's a cesspool of noise and distraction. And yeah, it really goes to show how unfocused I am and how hard, 2017, 2018 to now, how much my focus has shifted. So I just need to get back to what I know I'm capable of. And I know that, the good work will follow. So but, but yeah, my current Twitter account is at Rob Motto Movies. That's what I'm watching. That's kind of where I'm spend most of my time talking about non-movie stuff. So, but yeah, that's my Twitter where you can see what I'm watching, what I'm talking about, what I'm into. And like I said, I'm trying to get more reviews out just to make it a more regular thing. So, but yeah, the first topic I want to get into today is sort of an Oscars recap. Um, Not a whole lot of surprises. Oppenheimer pretty much rolled. The one surprise of the night was Emma Stone winning Best Actress over Lily Gladstone, which still not. I mean, I'm probably never going to be a fan of that choice, but you know, uh, it is what it is. I think there were some things going against Lily Gladstone, some things for Emma Stone, and at the end of the day, it's like she's an incredibly down to earth, likable actress. Um, so it's hard not to root for her. It's hard not to be happy for her. I liked Poor Things. I mean, I know a lot of people who I go on their shows or I produce content with who did not or found it, degenerate or whatever. I mean, it's just like it's a movie at the end of the day. It's like, but at the end of the day, it made me laugh. I thought it was entertaining, visually creative. Um, I mean, even has some Nietzschean philosophy in there. So just, and again, if you don't know Yorgos Lanthimos, if you don't know what kinds of movies he makes, I mean, he makes perverse, boundary pushing kind of freak out art movies. You know what I mean? So that's that's what you get. And Poor Things was probably his most accessible movie. So, all things considered, I think it's mostly success. Even Mark Ruffalo, who a lot of people claim was over the top or just ridiculous, was great. I thought he was hilarious. Just a kind of clown of a character, but it's fine. Emma Stone winning was a surprise, but it's not like it was a huge upset. It was pretty neck and neck going into the award ceremony. I just thought that SAG would give Lily Gladstone the win. So really happy for Christopher Nolan, for Oppenheimer, for Cillian Murphy, and Robert Downey Jr. They knocked it out of the park with that movie. It's really hard to find a complaint there. And I kind of had a little bit of a back and forth last week or over the weekend with somebody about it where it was just like, look, I do not understand how you don't relate or connect to that character. I mean, you've never been bullied or pushed around. You've never had a situation where, you know, you stood up, you had the loyalty to your friends when they threw you under the bus. Like you've, so I just, these things, it's so difficult for me not to connect to that character. And then just the great amount of pressure and horror and weight on that character's shoulders from what he's created. It just, it's just like it's the heaviest stuff imaginable in terms of the human condition. and just the way his wife vociferously defends him to that ridiculous security committee. And yes, I know it requires you to relate and feel empathy for a socialist borderline communist. I know that's difficult to do, but try. It's but it's an excellent movie. It's about abuse of power and you know tr- Pandora's box and trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again in a sense, and in the deepest sort of historical and philosophical sense of what you've created and what it's going to do to the world. So, and look, we've been tremendously lucky that nobody has used a nuclear weapon since the United States military did in 1945. But then there's all these other kinds of advanced, horror. Who knows what AI is gonna, uh, what shit that's gonna bring. So, um, but yeah, getting back to the Oscars, I thought it was okay. I mean, I was doing the live stream with Jacob, Society Reviews, and Rick, um, my usual compatriots for that event. It wasn't so bad. Um, the monologue by uh, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't great. You know what I mean? It kind of lacked like a genuine pop, and I don't want to say thrills because it's like it's a fucking monologue to the Oscars, but it just was not funny. Didn't register for me at all, and kind of took tired shots at people for. I mean, even Robert Downey Jr. had to be like, "Okay, we get it. I used to be a drug addict. It's okay." Um, so yeah, that was tired, and it just didn't have much to it. Um, the banter between Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling was okay. Was a little funny. Um, but yeah, it's just the Oscars is an event that like seemingly is for Hollywood now. It's not for the people watching it on TV. It's not for the flyover states. It's kind of for the coastal elite people who run it and who have interest in who wins and how it appears to the outside world. But it's a facade. It's a complete just like, oh hey, we can all get together and we have a sense of humor and we're normal just like you. And every year it gets closer and closer to the territory of like, no, you don't. You're completely out of touch and you can't laugh at yourself. And it's just like, I mean, I was watching something on YouTube. I was watching like Bob Hope do the 1971 Oscar monologue, and he told a joke that was very funny, basically about how self-important all of them were. You know what I mean? And it was poking fun at their pomposity and their sort of elitism, and they still kind of wore the mask of like, oh yeah, we're ridiculous, we're the joke. And if they did the Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes a couple years ago, that monologue where he just openly insulted Hollywood to their face, would be so much more preferable than what it is now. The musical numbers weren't. I mean, the Ken thing was just kind of annoying. You know, um, there's not much to say really about the Oscars. I couldn't believe it still went over 3.5 hours. And I did it completely sober. So that's something to commend right there. But yeah, no, it was a good night. A lot of good movies won. And that's kind of what I mean by it was a good night. It was good to see American Fiction win. It was good to hear the screenwriter and director Cord Jefferson sort of say, "Hey, take that $200 million and make 10 $20 million movies or 20 $10 million movies, or but it's just like you can use your resources in a much smarter way." And that's something I can get to as a topic here in the coming podcast episodes about Hollywood and its complete waste of resources and how it utilizes 150 180 $200 million budgets. Like, what are you doing? Your movies look like shit. People do not remember them. They're completely forgettable. By the time they get released on Blu-ray and DVD, nobody buys them because they had no connection to the movie in the movie theater. You know, like, take that, even that movie, like, The Creator, which, I really didn't like, but visually, that really it stood out, but is anybody gonna remember it? Is anybody gonna, like, be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna totally buy that when it comes out?" I mean, visually, it looked basically like a Star Wars movie with somewhat impressive CGI. I will say that visually it did look good, compared to a lot of the crap that gets released that the big studios, send out. And it's just like, use your resources better. I mean, Terrifier 2, budget of $250,000, made over 10 million at the box office. Now, I know that's not going to be every movie. It's certainly not going to be every horror movie, but that's just an example of what you can do. I mean, the first John Wick movie was made on a uh, pretty minuscule budget. It absolutely kicked ass at the box office. You know, you have to give people a reason to go back to the movies. And I thought that 2023 was somewhat of a return to that, and I say that sort of cautiously optimistic, because no, I want to be excited about the movies. I want to be excited to go to the movie theater. And, 2024, I don't know if this is because of the strike or they're just using that as an excuse, but it's been dog shit. It's been there's no continuation of the quality from 2023, and maybe all I'm talking about is about a dozen movies. If you can have a dozen movies that are entertaining, worthwhile, have an artistic merit that stands out, that is very clear to an audience, to anybody watching it, just in separating itself from the usual, intellectual property corporate dreck that comes out, like another Transformers movie. That's a good year. And that's really sad. It's really sad that all it takes now is 12 movies, 15 movies. And that's what 2023 was. I mean, even in the early part of the year, you had things like Infinity Pool and Operation Fortune and John Wick 4, ever before you got to Oppenheimer, or, like The Iron Claw, or American Fiction, or Killers of the Flower Moon, and I mean, you had stuff that people didn't even see, like Eileen, the Otessa Moshfegh novel that got adapted, where, what is it? Anne Hathaway, and I'm trying to remember the girl's name. I can never. She was in Last Night in Soho. I just can't think of her name right now. And that really terrible, like Nazi era World War II movie, Jojo Rabbit. But yeah, it just 2023 provided a lot of different kinds of movies. Even if it wasn't your kind of thing, like Poor Things, or Saltburn, which I fucking hated. I hated that movie. I thought it was trash. But I think Emerald Fennell just likes making movies that she thinks will upset the sort of social order and, patriarchy and what. Yeah, thank you, Thomas and Mackenzie. Um, I think she just likes making those quote unquote subversive movies that frankly aren't subversive at all. Because she made Promising Young Woman. That was another just utter piece of shit. And I love Carey Mulligan. I have a weird crush on her. Don't ask me why, but and she's a great actress. She showed that in Maestro. Again, Maestro is another movie that came out this year that people kind of hated on it, from film Twitter, but like normal people, people who watch movies and don't hold strange grudges against Bradley Cooper, liked it quite a bit. So I'm not going to apologize for that. It's a movie that gets made fun of, what, the prosthetics, because he was so into this guy's life that he like ended up crying in this TV interview with his family. Whatever. It's fine. It just, yeah, and Carey Mulligan has had some really questionable, uh, role choices here in the last five years, but she's really capable when the material is good, when the director's good. But she's definitely has no problem occupying that sort of like pro-feminist shit that uh, that's come out the last decade or so. Whether it's, oh god, the Harvey Weinstein movie where she plays a reporter. Um, that was fucking awful. Promising Young Woman was terrible. And then she was in Saltburn as like the, the mother to yeah, I'm spacing on the guy's name right now, but that's okay. It's not important ultimately, but yeah, it's fine. 2023 was a good year for movies. I will say that it was the best year since 2019, which was another strong year that had about 15 good movies that I had on top movies of the year list. So, yeah, She Said was the movie, with Carey Mulligan and, yeah, with Zoe. Yeah. Just ideological dreck. Zoe Kazan. But yeah, anyway, so I hope 2024 gets better. I'm looking forward to The Bike Riders by Jeff Nichols, Hitman with Glenn Powell, directed by Richard Linklater. Not a whole lot more than that is on my radar. So, Civil War, I'm actually pretty excited for it by Alex Garland. Uh, you have people that are already jumping on this sort of bandwagon of like, oh, it's predictive programming and it's gonna make journalism really important. Just wait for the movie to come out, please. Just shut the fuck up and wait for the movie to come out. That's all I ask. I mean, really. And I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of sort of prejudging movies or judging them by the trailer, which is why I don't like watching trailers. But um, I like the idea of, that dystopian reality of like, oh, hey, these events are happening and I'm not in control and I don't really know what to do and what hap what how people act when order breaks down. You see people's true colors come out. So I like that shit. I think if it's done well, it can be really interesting. And I like Alex Garland when he is dealing with sort of dystopian issues like that. I mean, I think he did a great job with Ex Machina. I still think The Beach is somewhat underrated as a thriller with, Leonardo DiCaprio back in 2000. He wrote that screenplay. I'm not sure. I don't think he directed it, but he wrote the screenplay for it. Um, and so he has a lot of talent, and it's A24. I think spent $75 million on this production. So hey, I'm down. Has a good cast to it. It looks like they invested quite a bit into the production. So hey man, I'm looking forward to it. There's so little to kind of get excited about at the movies these days. So I'm just hoping that 2024 is good because like listen, I've seen about I think I've gone to the theater 12 times already in 2024. 3 of those have been for things like The Fugitive. Um I'm really going to space on this now. The Godfather Part 2, which was excellent, and Field of Dreams. But so that means I've seen like 8 or 9 movies from 2024. The best movies so far have been The Beekeeper and Dune Part 2. And I was not that high on Dune Part 2, if you remember. So it's been a bit of a slog. I saw Arthur the King, which was not as bad as I thought it was going to be fair, but there was just not much there. It's a Mark Wahlberg movie where he goes from being hyper competitive to learning how to work with a team, and it's fine. It's just a little hollow, and of course, it's based on a true story, and it's supposed to be heartwarming. Um, it's fine. It just feels a bit threadbare, and the supporting cast is kind of barely there, and it kind of limps to a 90-minute runtime. But yeah, sure, it's fine. If you go with your family, I'm sure you'll have a good time, but it's just very low stakes kind of material. And, it is what it is. It doesn't exceed expectations. It kind of barely meets them, but that's fine. At least it's not overly ideological and beating you over the head with terrible force-fed lines that reflect our modern society. So there's always that. Because Argyle was I mean, it's gonna be incredibly hard to beat Argyle as the worst movie of the year. That was just such a massive piece of shit. That like girl boss, super heroine nonsense. It just I can't say it enough. I could feel the soul leaving my body watching that movie. That is how terrible it was. Lisa Frankenstein was not much better. If it was better at all, that was another just god awful movie. Um, and I can't even remember at this point, I can't even remember what else I've seen. It's just been that dismal, but, you know, it's oh, yeah, Love Lies Bleeding was okay. Love Lies Bleeding was probably the best movie I've seen this year so far. Um, Good takeoff on neo-noir, lesbian relationship. The one girl, Kristen Stewart, her dad is, like, sort of the criminal element in the town, the boss. Um, but it it's pulpy, it's entertaining, the violence is good, but it kind of plays fast and loose with the neo-noir tropes to the point where it becomes kind of something ridiculous towards the end. Um, Jumps the shark, shall we say. So it just I would have preferred that, it stuck to what it presented itself as instead of kind of flying off into a dream sequence and wish fulfillment and, you know, if you're gonna make a neo noir, make a neo noir. Like understand that, part of movie making and storytelling is having a consistent tonal, atmospheric reality for your characters to exist in. Because when you abandon those rules, so to speak, even if we're talking about a movie, you have to really go there. You know what I mean? You have to really, if you're going to go over the top, if you're going to go kind of divert from what the movie has been has been up to a certain point, you gotta really go there. Otherwise, it just feels lackluster, minuscule, niche, and again, this is a movie that I liked. So that I'm talking about here. So it was good. I don't think that they went gratuitous with the sex scenes. I thought that it was fairly economic and minimalist while kind of existing in that neo noir neon, you know, uh, gritty, crime world. So definitely has some things to say about roid rage and the female bodybuilder. And I thought Katie O'Brien was sort of the most interesting thing about the movie. But yeah, it's a bit small as a movie overall, but it's good. I'd recommend seeing it. I think it's just a fun, violent crime movie for the most part. It doesn't push ideology or politics. It's at the end of the day, it's about people trying to survive, or in this sense, fucking up and trying to clean up their mess, and them doing a terrible job of it, and the FBI's around, but then they never satisfy, you know, they never satisfy that as part of a plot of the story it's telling. And it's kind of a mess, but it's a fun mess. It's stylistic. It's got some attitude to it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I had it at about a 3.5 out of 5. So I yeah, I hope the year gets better. I'm gonna see the Ghostbusters movie this week, which I do not have a lot of hope for. It's I didn't see the last one despite I am a fan of Jason Reitman. I just wish he would go back to doing um the more satirical material that he was known for in the 2000s. Thank You for Smoking, Up in the Air. I think that he is a gifted storyteller, but he has been on a slump for over a decade now. Um he did Labor Day, he did the first Ghostbusters movie. He did Tully, Young Adults. He seems to like working with Charlize Theron, but the returns have not been very good. So the son of Ivan Reitman, this obviously the son, um, who took over the franchise, I suppose, and that was nice. But if the movies themselves aren't very good, or I mean, they're basically kids movies, you know, what's the point? Again, I mean, I liked the Ghostbusters movies as a kid to a certain point, but they're just kind of silly movies of their time. I don't understand really why there's a fandom, following it around, but whatever. Go enjoy the movie. Just gonna try to get through it, and hopefully it's not terrible. That's my baseline at this point. I hope it's not terrible. So, um, we got Civil War in a couple weeks. We've got the Ghostbuster movie. Um, I think there's something next week, but I can't remember. I'm looking forward to Chinatown, honestly. Chinatown is playing at Regal next week. Uh, I can't wait for that one. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. Just unbelievably tragic. 1974, nominated for Best Picture. So I can't wait for that one. I was so happy to see Godfather Part 2 earlier. So, there's at least that's good about 2024. If I cannot find a movie theater in New York City that's doing a 40th anniversary of Once Upon a Time in America, uh, I'm gonna. There's an old theater down in North Carolina that is showing it in early May, and I'm thinking of just going for that because I swore that I would do everything I could to go see that movie on the big screen this year. It's just one of my things on my bucket list that I have to do. So, we'll see. We'll see what 2024 has in store. I do not have a lot of hope for the release schedule. I just think it's going to be a lot of intellectual property garbage. Oh yeah, that's right. The Godzilla Kong movie is coming out where they have to team up to beat up the bigger monkey. So that's where we are now, guys. Just big beasts. And that's the non-ideological part of it. Like that's the non-insufferable like garbage of like I didn't have to see the Magical Society of Negroes. I mean, I'm so sorry that movie even exists. Uh, a movie that feigns satire that's, more about racial invective towards white people. I mean, aren't you tired? Aren't you tired yet? I mean, I was tired when I saw a Black Klansman in like 2018. That whole fucking movie. By the way, that opening where Alec Baldwin is being openly racist, hilarious, absolutely hilarious. That was the best part of the movie. And then it proceeds to be this fucking screed against, Trump somehow from 1970, whatever. I mean, aren't you embarrassed, Spike Lee? Aren't you incredibly embarrassed to be somebody that artists look up to, and yet here you are making a simplistic, banal political screed against your cultural opponents? I mean, just shut the fuck up, please. Go away. I'd rather you said nothing than embarrass yourself like that. By the way, best movie he did was called 25th Hour, starring Edward Norton. Best movie he ever did. It's a white guy. Anyway, just it's fine. Okay, so moving, it's the Oscars. It's not going to get better. It's just going to be what it is at this point. Um, so I don't plan on it improving. It is what it is. All I can hope for is that good movies get awarded, which of course will not happen now that the diversity and inclusion standards change going forward. Starting with this film year, 2024, for next year's ceremony. It, if you thought it was bad that Moonlight won Best Picture, like get ready. This is just going to be a shit show. An entire shit show parade of awful movies getting awarded and being celebrated for tokenism and just, hey, you covered social issue X of the day. Here's an award. It's just so disappointing and it's depressing. But yeah, it's okay. Just don't put stock in these idiots awards. At the end of the day, that's what you have to sort of take away from this whole thing. It's their private club who they allow in, and they decide what merits, being rewarded. So just leave it at that. Speaking of the Oscars, Jonathan Glazer, director of Sexy Beast, great film, Under the Skin, Birth, as well as 2023's Best Picture nominee, The Zone of Interest, kind of got into some hot water over his frankly pretty benign comments regarding what's been going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip since I think it's October 7th of 2023. As YouTube is censoring my stream now. Just kidding. He made some comments when the zone of interest won for oh gosh, what was it? Was it best? Okay, that's right. It won best international film. Okay, so I'm gonna play his comments so you can judge for yourself whether what he is saying is incendiary towards Jewish people or not. Now, Jonathan Glazer, for full disclosure, is Jewish. So, frankly, I don't play identity politics. Okay. I don't give a fuck what you are, where you come from. I don't care. I judge you based on individual universal standards of like respect and, you know, just being a free human being and being able to speak your mind and express yourself. Okay. I don't play that game. However, people from different cultures, backgrounds, nationalities have unique perspectives on a myriad of issues that affect them. And, Jonathan Glazer is one man. He's an artist, a director. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but he at least is entitled to his opinion, regardless of what it is, whether you agree with it or not. So I'm going to play his comments here. Um, because I think it's important to, put in context what exactly is being, um, what the uproar is all about here. So we're going to take a listen.
Non-English language film to be nominated for both International Feature Film and Best Picture in the same year.
The Rock is standing back there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid. It's like he already knew what was coming.
Thank you to the Academy for this honor, and to our partners A24 Film for Access and the Polish Film Institute, to the Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum for their trust and guidance, to my producers, actors, collaborators. All our choices were made to reflect and confront us in the present, not to say, look what they did then.
Okay. So he's obviously saying that the movie presents a reality that they are facing currently. You know, and I mean, art does this. It presents something, but if it, this is what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to accomplish something that is relevant at maybe a time. Excuse me. The time that is being depicted is not necessarily the present, and yet you can take away from it the same idea, the same message, if you will. That's not, that's not uh, that's not just the zone of interest. That's many movies try to pull that off, try to accomplish that sort of artistic lens.
Rather, look what we do now. Our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst. It shaped all of our past and present. Right now, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people.
Okay. So basically, again, he's basically saying, I refuse to allow the fact that I'm Jewish and the rest of it, the fact that we're Jewish, to allow fucked up shit to happen to people. That's basically all he's saying. He's just saying, I'm not going to allow my religion, my faith, or culture to basically prevent me from speaking on this.
Whether the victims of October...
Okay.
Whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all are victims of this dehumanization. How do we resist?
And it's like people are careful, like, whether to clap or to not clap too, because it's just like, there's cameras. We can see you.
Alexandra Bistron Koladziejczak, the girl who glows in the film as she did in life, chose to. I dedicate this to her memory and her resistance. Thank you.
Okay. So you may not like, um, I don't know. You may not like some of that, especially if you're staunchly pro-Israel, but you didn't say anything there that's out crazy or out of line. He's simply pointing out that if we do not learn from the lessons of the past, we will repeat them. Okay. Now, you could think that what's going on in Gaza right now is completely legitimate and that, you know, they brought it on themselves and that there are hostages and that I'm not saying it's not complicated. I know it's complicated. I know that it seemingly has no end to the, to that conflict has no end seemingly. But artists are there to ask questions, to point out possibilities, to provoke ideas. And eh, I hate, I'm anti-war personally. I hate violence. I want to avoid it at all costs. But I also understand that I don't live there and I don't probably have the full picture of the situation. I don't know how people online are so confidently voicing their opinions, and it's like, dude, I have no fucking clue. I think the government of Israel, there's a lot there to criticize in terms of their past actions, but I also believe that they legitimately have a right to defend themselves because there's innocent people who live there and are just trying to go on about their lives. There's innocent people who have been affected by this on all sides. And so Jonathan Glazer has every right to say what he said. You can be offended by it. You can say that, it's offensive and it goes, but it's just like he's the guy who made this movie. And you either accept that, contradictions and all, with, how you viewed the movie versus how he describes it. You know, it, it's okay. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. I, and this was 2 weeks ago or over 2 weeks ago. Um, the backlash that has happened because of these comments is eye-opening. Okay? We've run into some of this ground before with Melissa Barrera and her comments about the Hamas, Israeli conflict on October 7th. We've seen Susan Sarandon get pretty much straight up, like, told to get in line with her comments. I mean, we've seen multiple people kind of try to speak out, and you've seen what's happened. And it's like, okay, yes, there are a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. What I will say is, like anywhere else, there are Jewish people on all sides of this debate. Okay, you have people that are very pro-Israel. You have people that are pro-Palestine, or excuse me, Palestine, pro. I guess that's what it would be. But um, because of the whole, just the view of oh, the poor brown people need us to speak up for them, kind of like basic form of liberalism. I'm not saying one thing or the other, but you do have to be cognizant of who you're insulting potentially in a business that you work in. So just I'm going to throw that out there because it's true. There are people of of all views on this debate that exist in the Jewish community. Jonathan Glazer is just voicing his opinion through his movie about the Holocaust. If you understand cinema, if you understand movies, they are about empathy. And looking at that is Israeli, Palestine, Israel, Gaza thing, you know, there is one side that's getting it worse than the other. Let's just be real about that. Okay, whether it's fair, not fair, listen, I'm really trying not to have an opinion there, okay? But it's like, just take a deep breath and take a step back. The backlash to this, like, this came out this week, an article by Variety. Okay. Um, here, I'm gonna pull this up. Let's take a look. Okay, so over 1,000 Jewish creatives and professionals have now denounced Jonathan Glazer's zone of interest Oscar speech in an open letter. Exclusive. So this is by Tatiana Siegel. More than 1,000 Jewish creatives, executives, and Hollywood professionals have signed an open letter denouncing Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest Oscar speech. The list of co-signees provided to Variety Monday morning covers a broad swath of the industry, including actors Deborah Messing, Tova Feldsha, executives Gary Barber, Gail Berman, creators Amy Sherman Palladino, directors Eli Roth, Rod Lurie, producers Lawrence Bender, Amy Pascal, Hawk Cock, Sherry Lansing, and representatives UTA's Jake Fenton, Gersh's Jeffrey Greenberg, attorney Craig Emanuel. About 500 more individuals have added their names than the nearly 500 who signed on when the open letter was first published. The group's statement says, "We refute our Jewishness being hijacked for the purpose of drawing a moral equivalence between a Nazi regime that sought to exterminate a race of people and an Israeli nation that seeks to avert its own extermination." Glazer declined to comment. Smart man. With such a okay, I'm gonna stop right there for a second. So always the victims, huh? You guys are always the victims, right? Okay, so we refute our Jewishness being hijacked for the purpose of drawing a moral equivalence, which is not what Jonathan Glazer did. He didn't make an equivalence. He simply was saying that if we do not learn from the past, which includes you, which includes the Jews that were affected by the Nazis in World War II, we will repeat this. And he kept using the word dehumanization, which is exactly what the Nazis did to the Jews. They dehumanized them. So it's like, all right, you may not believe that's what's going on, but let me tell you something. Israel is literally a I don't know what you would call it. Eh, I'm not gonna use the A word, like South Africa. But let's just say there are two classes: Israeli Jews and everybody else. Okay, so and trust me, I've seen the evidence, I've seen the videos, I've um seen this being the case. So again, it's like you gotta be real careful here because at the end of the day, it's like you're defending what you believe to be the rightful Jewish state of Israel. Um, and a lot of people kind of look at that and they say, and they see the bombing of civilians day after day after day after day, and they sort of start to question at what point do you know, at what point do you start thinking of the innocent people being impacted by it? So we can have a debate over these comments, but I do not think that this is what Jonathan Glazer did. I think that this is a false is not it's not a false equivalency, but it's a manipulation of the truth. I'm just going to stop right there. It's- with such high profile co-signees as Jennifer Jason Leigh, La La Land producer Gary Gilbert, and The Americans creators, the use of words like occupation to describe an indigenous Jewish people defending a homeland that dates back thousands of years and has been recognized as a state by the United Nations distorts history. It gives credence to the modern blood libel that fuels a growing anti-Jewish hatred around the world, in the United States, and in Hollywood. Okay. The missive comes in response to director Jonathan Glazer's controversial acceptance speech at the Oscars on March 10th after his Holocaust film, The Zone of Interest, won Best International Film. Yep. And they just go over his comments here. See, they're watching. Look. After Glazer spoke, he received applause at the Dolby Theater, some of it enthusiastic, like from Poor Things star Mark Ruffalo. See, this is what I mean. Everything is public. Everything is, is now in this performative manner where there's this checklist that they're just keeping tabs on. Okay. But few were willing to criticize Glazer's words outside of Michael Rappaport and Mayim Bialik, who did so on social media. Blavik appeared to distance himself. Who? Oh, I have no idea who this is now. Who? These are not written. These are not from all the way from up here. The financer of it. Okay. Fucking Variety. Let's see here. Support Israel is unwavering. Others previously interviewed by Variety, like directors Asif Kapidia and Jesse Peretz, expressed support for Glazer's speech. Director faced condemnation from outside Hollywood. Okay. His words sound eerily similar to Vanessa Redgrave's infamous Zionist hoodlum speech, says Modern Family producer Iana Warnick of Glazer's speech. Only this time there were no Patty Chayefsky to stand up and say the right thing. Sadly, Jew hatred won the day. That's why so many of us in the industry reached out to each other. See, the fact that these people take any form of criticism as hatred, you're just weaponizing your own culture and religion against anybody that deviates from what is perceived as the acceptable thing to say. I don't know. Just personally speaking, I think that people who are creative and artistic shouldn't really think like that. You know, I mean, I'm not here to tell people how to think, but the fact that you want to silence people for freely expressing what they think, you know, when it doesn't even benefit them to do so. Like, there's no benefit to Jonathan Glazer saying this. There really isn't. And, you know, to sort of like reduce it down to you hate me because you don't support what I'm saying. It's sort of like, how much of a fucking narcissist are you? Stranger Things and Fleabag actor Brett Gelman, who was a joke. I mean, like, you want to talk about pro-Israel celebrities, echoed that sentiment. There was no concern for how Jewish people are going to react to a speech like that, to that applause, to those red pins, when not even our hostages are being mentioned. And it's just incredibly hurtful, incredibly painful. And again, you know, I don't know enough about this issue to really know if there are even hostages anymore. Because I'm pretty sure there have been multiple exchanges, you know, since October 7th. But whatever, I'm just gonna keep steamrolling along because this is just like it's like, you know, landmines I'm avoiding left and right. Man, this article is so one-sided, isn't it? Oh my god! And again, I'm not surprised. It's Hollywood Variety, you know what I mean? But holy shit! Okay, now we get into all these personal politics about, you know, hypotheticals and um you know, again, it's just oh, and here's all the names. I mean, it's just a group of people who are entitled, who are not victims in the slightest, who make themselves out to be the most just, oh, look, oh, I'm such a victim. I'm hurt beyond belief. So I look, it's just where's Woody Allen in all this? That's what I want to know. No, these are self-righteous douchebags, okay? These are self-righteous fucking morons. That's who these people are, okay? You can view the conflict, the situation however you want, but Jonathan Glazer has every right to express himself and to say what he thinks. The Zone of Interest, by the way, excellent movie. I think it's probably the best shot film of 2023. Oppenheimer was great and everything, but The Zone of Interest made my top 5. I think it's an incredibly powerful, haunting movie that just solidifies in concrete uh, that disconnection from reality of human suffering, of dehumanization, as Glazer said in his speech multiple times. And whether you agree that it connects or lands to the current conflict, you know, that's up to you to decide. But it's an artistic statement. It's, you know, what human beings are capable of when they do not acknowledge, the suffering of others around them. And I say that as somebody who, I know that there's a lot of fake bullshit out there today. I know that there's a lot of nonsense, a lot of like internet fakery and bullshit and Kickstarters and scams. I understand that. I understand that fundamentally. But there is a danger in not acknowledging when someone has gone too far. Um, it's just like, whether the person was doing something wrong or not. It's just like, okay, it's humanity has to come in at some point. Like we really, and again, there's a lot of people who take advantage of that shit, who take advantage of people who genuinely do care when someone's being harmed or discriminated against or assaulted. You know what I mean? But yeah, humanity has to come in at some point and say, okay, it's just we do live in a society that has the rule of law, and you don't put your hands on somebody unless you're defending yourself. But yeah, it's just it's typical of Hollywood, unfortunately, of this kind of thing where you guys are just ganging up on this guy because he's deviating from what your script says. And I'm not even going to get into the influence that an organization like Mossad has in Hollywood. But yeah. So yeah, no, it's a hot topic. There's a lot of heated opinions and emotions, and I seemingly keep coming back to it, which I'm going to try to avoid just because it's not that interesting. And I described it as, two groups of people who don't like me anyway. So, just stop killing each other, please and thank you. But yeah, I do like Jonathan Glazer. I did like The Zone of Interest. I think Sexy Beast is a phenomenal film. Check it out if you haven't. Ben Kingsley is awesome in that movie. But yeah, it's tired of the controversy bullshit. It's funny, when movies are good, the controversy stuff doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because the art speaks for itself, I think, at the end of the day. But all right, so I have to check my little list here because I always forget my topic list. So now I have to pull it up. But yeah, I saw The Fugitive on the big screen for St. Patty's Day. That was fun. I was definitely looking forward to the head dive into the, off the dam by Harrison Ford on the big screen. So that was fun. But yeah, because I know I have got my movie list that I want to go through real quick. But I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much covered 24 movies during kind of deviated from my Oscars recap. So, all right. So yeah, we're pretty much here at the end of the show. It's always fun to talk about this stuff. It's it's good to it's good to get it out. It's good to express yourself. It's fun. I'm glad that I have I'm appreciative of the small audience I have. Thanks for spending time with me. But yeah, I'm gonna continue to go through my movie library here. I am up to 265 movies now on disc. So we are on letter D. So it will, excuse me if I'm moving slow here. I like pulled a muscle in my lower back. So it's really fun to move right now. But yeah, here we go. Okay. So I wish they're set up for this. I mean, I want to start doing movie nights. But that's really hard to do on YouTube. Twitter apparently is good for it. And yeah, I know. Yes, I am. Twitter's good for it. Rumble is good for it. But Rumble, you need to have at least like 5 subscribers or something to stream. or you have to pay for the premium thing. So, and I don't, I don't do my podcast often enough to even get that many subscribers on Rumble, because not a lot of people use Rumble, honestly. Um, so I have to figure that out. I might just bite the bullet and sign up for, premium, just to start the process, just to kind of get going, so I can do that once a week, a couple times a week. And again, it doesn't have to be anything more than just putting on a movie, and commenting on it. Like, I can have whoever wants to come on to be part of, do commentary with me. But I mean, it's just a pretty relaxed kind of thing. So I've always enjoyed doing that on Friday nights with Jacob and with Rick. And it just seems like something I would naturally, gravitate to. So anyway, on to you know, my movies here for the letter D. I slowly but surely adding up a pretty nice collection. So first movie I've got here, I watched recently, is The Deer Hunter. I have it on 4K Blu-ray. Excellent movie, but absolutely brutal. It is not going to be for everybody. It's a hard movie to watch. It's a bit slow, including I think it's a 30-minute wedding sequence in the first hour. So yeah, that definitely adds on to the runtime, but just amazing performances by Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Meryl Streep, John Cazale. Uh, and I mean, I love it personally because it's set in Pennsylvania. It's very, like, the locations they went to do the deer hunting is actually the same location as Twin Peaks. It's Snohomish, Washington. Those mountains, Snoqualmie Mountains, are breathtaking. I think it's funny that they basically were saying that that's Pennsylvania. Like, the Pennsylvania mountains don't look like that. They don't look like the Rockies, and that's what the Cascades are. They're the Northern Rockies. So, really good movie, cinematic '70s kind of milieu. Michael Cimino's great sort of triumph before he lost his marvels with Heaven's Gate. So, highly recommended, but certainly not going to be for everybody. Yeah, it's tough, and I'll be honest with you, the controversy over The Deer Hunter, as from Hollywood liberals in 1977 or 1978, as racist, I was just like, how do you even get there? It's First of all, it's from the soldier's perspective. Of course, they're cruel and unusual and awful and, you know, inhuman. Inhuman monsters. The people torturing you, yes, they are inhuman monsters. There's nothing wrong with that. I do not understand that you're so sensitive that you feel bad for the Vietnamese. Please go fuck yourself. Please go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't believe that. That's completely ridiculous. So that I have never understood that perspective. And just reading about it, just, I don't know. Feels like my hair's on fire. Next one, I haven't actually opened this yet. I got it a couple months ago. The Devil's Advocate. I don't know what it is about this movie. It's not perfect. I think some of the supernatural aspects of it are fucking stupid. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's one of Keanu Reeves' best performances. Keanu Reeves is not a good actor, guys. Okay, we can love him. He's very good in certain action material. I think, he was good in The Matrix. He was good in John Wick. I think he was good, despite not liking the movie. What's the stupid graphic novel movie from 2005? Constantine. Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a good movie, but he is good in it. Uh, the Devil's Advocate is just like, I like the court sequences. I like the sort of slow descent into, the slow moral descent away from being good and righteous. That's sort of like these lies adding up and demoralizing your character and your principles slowly over time, and just allowing it to happen because you know because you're being tempted to do so. I think it does a great job shooting in New York. I think, it really gives you that atmosphere, that location. Al Pacino is a bit larger than life, but he's so great. He's so good in it as, Lucifer or Satan, the devil, whoever. And the supporting cast is wonderful. You have all these people from, like, Law& and Order and Craig T. Nelson and, Jeffrey Jones. Charlize Theron, this was like I thought she was I thought she was at her height of being beautiful here. This came out in, like, '97. So, Devil's Advocate's great. Eh, it's a bit I think it's a bit messy. Uh, what it's based on oh, shit, I it's a novel. I cannot think of the novel name right now. Um, shit, I want so badly to remember what it's the novel it's sort of based on, but, something Paradise, but, yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna keep fucking up. So, but yeah, I love The Devil's Advocate. I think it's a lot of fun. I do think it has issues in terms of storytelling and the movie overall, but, I've always really enjoyed it. I've always really liked it. Alright, I think today I have about, I'm gonna say a dozen movies. It might be over that, but, we'll just keep going here. It's another one I have not opened yet is Dunkirk. Excellent movie from 2017. Christopher Nolan arguably should have won Best Director for this one, but he didn't. And it's not a movie of his that is beloved by a lot of people. They think it's too slow. But if you know movies, if you know war movies, there is so much to appreciate in this from a cinematography point of view, artistic point of view. It's it's actually, I think, one of his best movies from start to finish. Technically sound, interesting. It moves around. It has many different characters, and I think it's such a great accomplishment of filmmaking. Okay, this is probably my favorite 4K Blu-ray that I own. Walter Hill's The Driver. This is the movie that inspired. Uh, is it? Hold on, I'm gonna fuck this up, huh? Uh, Drive by Ryan Gosling, or starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. The Driver, starring Ryan O'Neal, is such a fucking cool ass movie. It is an absolute execution in minimalist, low key crime movie storytelling. It is fantastic. Baby Driver, Drive, you name it. Okay, like post 1978 car chase movies, this is the inspiration. It's such a fucking cool movie. Bruce Dern plays a crooked ass cop who at every turn tries to upend Ryan O'Neal's character. Just absolutely cherish this movie. Incredible. Okay. Dragged Across Concrete by S. Craig Zoller. One of the best movies of 2019, one of the best movies of the 2010s, the whole decade. Just an absolutely ferocious yawp of cinematic exploitation excellence. I utterly love this movie. If you love 70s exploitation movies, this is going to be right up your alley. Vince Vaughn, Mel Gibson, cops who get suspended and who end up trying to rob a heist crew. So, a lot of fun, brutal, unforgiving, great movie. Billy Wilder's Double Indemnity, 1944. The key film noir just the key movie of the genre. There's not much I can really say about it. The key performances are outstanding. Edward G. Robinson, Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck, all top notch. Um, Minimalist World War II era film noir filmmaking, tight at every turn, incredible editing, a remarkable feat of storytelling, starting at the end, going to the beginning. Just uh, an excellent execution of of filmmaking talent on display here. Don't Look Now, possibly a lesser known horror film from the early 70s. Don't Look Now is directed by wow, I'm gonna get it. It's the guy who did The Witches and Nicholas Rogue. Yeah, there we go. I got it. Yeah, Nicholas Rogue directed this, and it's about as tragic as horror gets, while still incorporating supernatural elements. So, water plays a big focal point in this movie. It takes place in Venice, Italy. The canals and the huge bodies of water and the boats and the mirror reflection of the water. It's just this is an incredible artistic achievement by Nicholas Rogue. I think it's one of the best horror movies of the 1970s. Donald Sutherland, Julie Christie, unbelievably tragic ending. Cannot recommend it more. And the sex scene at the center of this movie is incredibly artistically done to the point where a lot of filmmakers could learn something from it. One of my favorite movies that really got me into movies and indie and exploitation movies and B movies is Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko is a movie that its reputation is strange because it is treated as a very cool experimental kind of indie movie, but it's also treated like only teenagers should like it. And I've never really understood that. Like, I think it's a very cool time travel movie. Takes place in 1988, dealing with the Reagan 80s, Catholic school, the sort of social conservatism of the time in America. And it's funny. It's darkly funny. And it just works. It works on so many levels. Jake Gyllenhaal is great in it. Jenna Malone. You have the gym teacher, Miss Farmer. Uh, you know, So, I mean, you have his therapist who's, played by Catherine Ross, who's been in the movies for over 30 years, um, who's great in it. So, it's a movie I've always loved, I've always appreciated. I think it's incredibly creative and interesting. So it's always been pretty close to my heart. You already know. You already know. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Dirty Work is such a fucking funny movie. It's something I watched countless times growing up on USA, and it's a must-own comedy. Norm Macdonald is gone now, but his one movie, and not he's in more than one, but this is really his what he wanted to what I feel he wanted to leave the world with, okay? It is not a great movie, but it is a great comedy, okay? It makes me laugh my ass off. It's something I return to probably 2 to 3 times a year. Um, Jack Warden is just the cherry on top to this delightful comedy. And Don Rickles too, let's be real. Movie I just got that I have not opened yet, but that I is one of my favorite comedies, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. This movie, I personally prefer Dirty Rotten Scoundrels over A Fish Called Wanda. Both are very funny movies from 1987, I believe. But Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, just Michael Caine, Steve Martin, just two idiots trying to outdo one another and, ultimately being complete fools by the end. This is one of those I just want to sit back and enjoy myself for 2 hours kind of movies. This is one of my I was really excited to get this for Christmas. It's the Blu-ray, Arrow's Blu-ray of Desperate Hours starring Humphrey Bogart and Frederick March. Um it's yep, Frederick. I just wanted to I was like, did I say his name right? I did. Frederick March. Incredible movie. One location, intense. I think it's over 2 hours long. They do not make movies like this anymore. Just a pure masterclass in old Hollywood craftsmanship. The Departed, we just had St. Patty's Day. The Departed, this is my Blu-ray Steelbook. The 4K is coming out soon, but I'm probably just gonna stick with this. It's a good copy. The Departed is a movie that's I have probably seen over 25 times. Uh, and every time I watch it, as much as I can agree maybe it's not the best Scorsese movie by any means, and it might have issues here and there. I think it's a uniquely entertaining, incredible movie. I think it's incredibly entertaining, incredibly violent and shocking and just epic. And it's over 2.5 hours long. It's in its scope. It's almost Shakespearean in terms of the two moles working against each other and all of the machinations taking place and the manipulations. Just it's an incredibly fascinating story. I think it is one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best performances. I know a lot of people kind of are just like whatever at it, but the way he carries his anxiety and his fear are just so palpable, and just the way he goes out is just unbelievably fitting to that world, and what the elements of dealing with crime and a corrupt police force. It's It gets a lot of shit, I think, because it's a remake of a South Korean film. I think it is superior in every single way. It has that Scorsese attitude and set of characters, and he brings the city of Boston, he brings it to the surface. He makes it come alive. So I've always been a big fan of it. I know it probably doesn't even crack the top 10 of his best movies, but it's a must own great movie for me. Deep Cover. I just watched my Criterion copy for the first time. This is hands down one of the best crime movies of the 1990s. It's incredibly atmospheric and stylish, and it puts you into that world of undercover, incredibly dangerous, increasingly hard to determine line of, undercover police work and gangster criminal activity. And that line becoming blurred and un, unbelievably untethered at a certain point. Lawrence Fishburne is excellent. His story is devastating, unbelievably sad, and yet, he's a character who doesn't ask you to feel sorry for him. Um, those are seemingly my favorite characters. There is great danger, there's a great threat to your continued existence and the world you live in, and yet it's like, yeah, and you still gotta get up, you still gotta get on with your life and live it. And I don't know, there's an element of westerns to that, except that it's more of the revisionist quality where it's just like, nope, the world is deeply corrupt. No one cares about you. Everyone's trying to screw you over, and yet you still got to put your boots on and go out and face it, don't you? I always like that sort of balance of combating, nihilism and apathy. I have not opened this movie in the 2 years that I bought it. Deliverance is perhaps one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen. It is, in fact, a horror movie to me. Okay? You cannot convince me Deliverance is not a horror movie. And being, at least in my a horror movie, it is probably one of the best ever made. It's such a powerful and haunting experience to watch this movie, much less, feel for the characters or realize what they've gone through. Burt Reynolds, I don't think has ever been better in a movie. I know, I know he has his fans with what Smokey and the Bandit and Hooper and the things he did in the late 70s, but this is just fantastic filmmaking from start to finish. Haunting and thrilling. And Ronnie Cox, I swear to God, seeing Ronnie Cox here, you know, especially being so familiar with his villain characters in RoboCop and Total Recall, just it brings a smile to your face. And it's just like, I am so glad this exists. But yeah, Deliverance, fucked up, dark movie. But I can't recommend it anymore in terms of its quality and just being a total powerhouse. Days of Heaven. This is the regular Blu-ray released by Criterion. This is Terrence Malick's second movie that he released in the 70s. This is not going to be for everybody. This is very slow, pastoral, naturalistic. Does a great job of utilizing natural light, especially during nightfall and the bonfire that they create. Early role for Richard Gere. Sam Shepard, who is now dead, is in it as well. Kind of slow moving, turn of the century, Depression era, rural period piece. It's hard to describe it past that. A lot of voiceover, introspective, slow, but definitely worth checking out. It's an incredibly beautiful movie. If you want to study it simply just for its compositional discipline and its vision of cinematic artistry, it is wonderful for that. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is not going to be for 70% of you. But yeah, check it out sometime, especially for its artistry. All right. I got this last week. This is my Darkman 4K Blu-ray Steelbook limited edition. I am so excited to crack this open soon. This is one of my favorite movies from my childhood, Darkman, directed by Sam Raimi. Very big. Batman is a big influence on this. You had Darkman, you had Batman, you had Dick Tracy, even in a sense, The Rocketeer, which was released by Disney, all influenced by Batman, by this sort of sense of heroism and the sets. It's right, the gritty sort of dark sets with the fire escapes and the rain and the stone streets and all of the production design similarities. I mean, I know that The Rocketeer is very bright, and it's set during right. It's set between it's set in the Southwest in World War II era, whereas these other movies are more 1940s urban landscape. I'm aware, but just that kind of era, that late 30s, early 40s sort of Americana era coming to the forefront in those early 90s movies. But Darkman is great. It's just there's so many things there. Universal monster movies and Phantom of the Opera and like I said, the influence of Batman, and it's such a wonderfully constructed comic book mishmash of ideas kind of movie. So I can't recommend that one any higher. It's a lot of fun. Some of the effects are dated, I'll say that. But it is in the charm of what it is and what it's reminiscent of those 1930s Universal horror movies. Okay, a couple more here. This is a movie that okay, it's not great, okay, but it's incredible. It's a movie that came out in the last decade that's highly watchable. You know, if adult contemporary, the music genre, adult contemporary, if that was a movie genre, it would be stuff like Danny Collins. Okay, so Danny Collins it's Al Pacino is this singer, much like Tony Bennett, who was given a great compliment by John Lennon in his, or when he was a kid, basically. And he's like chasing down this artifact of proof that this happened, or whatever. And um of course it's, he in his travels, in this pursuit, he is getting sick, and needs to reconnect with his son, who you know he's never met, he's never seen, spent time with. And of course, I have a giant soft spot for, yes, I am a walking talking cliche, but I do have a soft spot for, like, father son reconciliation storylines, and Bobby Cannavale plays his son here. So I do like that, and I think it's a solid movie. I do. Um it's not a great movie. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it is, but if you like Al Pacino, if you're just looking for something that's solid, it's definitely a movie to check out for sure. All right, last movie. Full disclosure, I did not buy this. This was given to me as a present, and I think it was because it was up for, like, awards, and my mom assumed that I just want to have movies that are up for awards in my collection. But whatever, I'm not gonna, like, throw a movie away. So this is Dallas Buyers Club. I don't claim this movie. Okay, it's in there. I don't have much to say about it. It 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 should not have won over The Wolf of Wall Street. That's all I can say. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill should have Oscars for that movie, and they don't. So it is what it is. I'm always amazed how long I can go. And I've been going for an hour and a half now on, like, basically 3 or 4 topics. So that's pretty good. And it's just me. That literally tells you how much I like to talk, by the way. This is why I'm very proud of myself for the shows that I'm on regularly, that I don't go on ad nauseum, because it's just like I sum up what I want to say, and then I try to, move it on to the next person, because I certainly don't want people to be inundated with my voice and my opinions and going around and around and around. So, yeah, not that I'm necessarily asking for feedback, but if I'm just going on in a circle, please let me know. Please tell me, because it's just, you know, I don't want this thing to be insufferable. Okay. But that pretty much wraps things up. I'm trying not to speak as quickly. I'm trying to kind of get into my comfort zone doing these podcasts and live streams, not putting too much pressure on myself, but I also don't want to waste your time. I think that it goes both ways. So it's just about finding a balance. But this is episode 6. I enjoy it. Um, thank you all for tuning in and showing up and being part of the audience. It is appreciated. Yeah, so I'm got offered a job recently, so I'm going to be starting that soon. Luckily, it's Monday through Friday, like 8 to 5. So that gives me time to be able to do stuff in the evenings as well as the weekends, which is exactly what I was looking for. I mean, I can tell you all now, I was working as a AAA dispatcher, and the amount of shit that I had to put up with AAA tow truck drivers not going on calls, literally sitting at Sheets, by the way, Sheets is like a gas station that does, like, made to order food. I'm sure that you have an equivalent in your area, whether it's Wawa or I don't fucking know. In Baltimore area, like here from York down to Baltimore, they have, what is it? Royal Farms. They have Rudders. I mean, they have a bunch of different kind of chains are like that, out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the country. They have, like, Loves, where they have, like, they make food inside, like that kind of thing. So they would just be sitting there. They'd be fucking not going to calls. and I would call them out on it. I would leave voicemails saying how unprofessional it was. And I started the job very much with the expectation that I didn't have to hold AAA members' hands, so that when they'd complain that they had to stay with their vehicle, or that that the estimated time of arrival is 60 to 90 minutes and that it's not a guarantee. They didn't like that. And, you know, being a successful dispatcher is about communication and about letting people know what the proper expectations are for service. And I don't know. It just didn't work out ultimately. I was really good at my job, but I just stepped on too many toes, which I've been doing customer service. This is hilarious if you know me online, that I've basically been doing customer service work for my entire life. It's been in call centers. It's been in as a supervisor. It's been working for the state government, but it's still dealing with people. And if you know me in any capacity, outside of my professional capacity, you would laugh your ass off knowing that I choose to put up with people every day, uh, as a livelihood. So it's just, until I get my bachelor's degree, until I can move on to something a little bit more elevated and requires more brain power, that's what it is. I have a good skill set of, as much as I hate to admit it, I have a good skill set of dealing with people when I try. I just don't really want to try. I'm so exhausted by that. It's unbelievable. But anyway, going to wrap up this stream. I will try to be here every Wednesday at 12, but if not, just check my Twitter to see when I am going to go live with my podcast. I'm trying to do it every week. I know that I missed the last couple weeks, but um, you know, I don't really have a good excuse. Okay. I deal with depression from time to time, and that makes it harder to get motivated to do things. Um, but yeah, I know I need to kind of kick my own ass and get into gear and do things. So that's really the only way out of it, is being proactive and doing the things you want to do, um and go from there. So hope the new Ghostbusters movie doesn't suck this upcoming weekend. We have the movie review night over on Society Reviews. So it'll be Society Reviews on YouTube and Rumble, as well as Twitter. It's where you can check that out at 10 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be covering the Ghostbusters movie. We're going to be covering Immaculate, starring Sydney Sweeney. And then I'm trying to think of the third movie that we are covering, and I am completely blanking on it. So, but yeah, we're covering a third movie, but I literally completely spaced on it. So I know I'm super professional about that, but that'll be Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, Side Reviews channel. And then I will probably be on the Bar Room, which is a pop culture uh, type show, Tuesday, same channel. So you can check me over there. Till next time, till You're Not Terribly Important to Me, episode 7. Take it easy. Take care of yourselves. And have a good Wednesday. Bye.